V80 is currently in the works, and it has probably progressed more than you think. If you saw my last video, we covered pretty much all of Zeeker's Patreon posts about Lethal Company, but I didn't show any screenshots or GIFs or videos because I wasn't sure if I was allowed to, but I have since got a reply. I basically just asked Zeekers if I could use some screenshots, GIFs, videos, and whatnot that he was posting in his Patreon, and he said, "Hi, since Patreon posts go public 2 weeks after being posted, you can use everything in those ones. For posts that haven't gone public, try not to show absolutely everything." And then he says, "I'm also excited for what is to come. You will have a lot of AI to analyze." So without further ado, let's get started. Now, Zeekers has posted like 5 or 6 posts in the last like 3 months about Lethal Company. Today, we're just going to be covering his first post. Tomorrow, we're going to be covering his next post, and so on and so forth. So the first post was on November 13th, 2025, and he titles it, "The Long Journey to Having Grass." He writes, "I came back to Lethal Company with a determination to figure out how to add grass and vegetation without murdering the game's frame rates. This led to a streak of what felt like really good luck, but I guess it was just me finally discovering things which I hadn't been determined enough before to find." And then he shows us this GIF. So as we can see, we have Adamance here with a bunch of grass, and yeah, I think it looks really nice. If you guys have ever been to my stream before, you know that the forest moons are my favorite moons, and you know, having grass that looks good on these moons is definitely going to bring it, you know, more to life. He goes on to say, "I looked at Adamance's flowers and noticed that Unity's automatic static batching was not batching them efficiently for whatever reason. So looked up a tutorial about how to create performant grass, and it told me to use GPU instancing to render every flower only on the GPU in a single draw cell, which is very efficient. To my surprise, this actually seemed to work. The game is able to render a copious amount of grass this way. Now I had grass that only took the game's frame rate down by about 20%. The next couple days, I worked on a script that manually spawns grass on the world and culls it depending on the player's distance from each grass chunk, like in Minecraft. Even with this, I think I'll need to add quality settings for it." So it sounds like he found basically a different way to render in grass, which kind of hurt the game's frame rate, but then he worked on a system where grass won't load in until you're a certain distance from it, like Minecraft chunks. So basically he's found out a way to efficiently add grass to the game, I think is basically what that paragraph is saying. The next discovery was helped along by the modding community, which practically understands the inner workings of my game better than I do. A few of them are here in the Patreon hangout room on Discord and are extremely helpful. Basically, in my effort to make the grass render properly, I would end up optimizing the game's main stylization shader as a side effect. And then he shows us another GIF of Adamance with grass. So yeah, he says I would end up optimizing the game's main stylization shader as a side effect, so it sounds like the game should be running a little bit better once this update drops. He says, "Up until now, Lethal Company could not render GPU instanced objects. If it did, it resulted in the objects sticking out from fog like this. In the above GIF, it might not be as clear, so here's another example," and then he shows us this photo. And then he says, "If this looks normal to you, please get your eyes checked." If you look at the bridge, you could see the bridge is like kind of behind the fog, right? Like there's some fog in front of that bridge, but there's no fog in front of the grass. Like the grass looks like fully rendered, even the grass that's way up on the hill and way back by the bridge. So yeah, he basically, I think he just found a fix where now fog is going to look much more natural. He says, "Just kidding, but if you're as familiar with this as I am, it would also make you want to throw up. This is why instead of using Unity's default terrain, I had to go through the workaround of buying an expensive asset to convert the terrain to a standard model, which came with its own host of problems when it was said and done. Now I cannot go back to edit any terrain on the existing moons without it being a lengthy process." So yeah, he has completely switched systems for terrain. Before he was using Unity's default terrain, and now he has bought an asset to convert it to a standard model. I don't know exactly what that means, but basically it sounds like he's just using a different system for moon terrain. He says, "This was one of the most ancient curses of Lethal Company. Some bugs stick around so long that they just become a fact of life." And then he dives into the solution for this. He says, "Well, the solution was to convert the game's main shader from a draw renders pass to a full screen pass. Previously, the game would apply outlines and cell shading effects to every single object on screen individually, but now these effects are applied once to the whole screen as a single image." He says, "I actually could only get so far in this before I had to get help. Thankfully, a member of the modding community had already done this exact thing and was willing to give me her solution to use in the base game. It was meticulously crafted to look exactly like the game's original shader, but has been recreated from the ground up. Now, because of her generosity, we can have many nice things." And then he shows us this photo and says, "This is actually a picture of my half-baked solution before I got help, but in this particular case, it looked pretty good. Notice that the grass has outlines, unlike the GIF and screenshots from before." So yeah, you can see down in the bottom left, it has some nice shading on it, and then you can see in the background the fog is kind of in front of that grass. Like that grass isn't sticking out fully shaded like it was before. You could tell it looks way more foresty. Like walking through, you know, Adamance or a forest moon with this new shader and with this fog working the way that it's supposed to, it's gonna feel way more like a forest. It was incredibly satisfying to be free of this bug once and for all and with no performance cost. It's actually supposed to make the game render faster, although I myself can't really tell. Okay, so then he has another section of the post which he titles the March revamp. He says, I've been planning to give March another try for a long time because it now feels like the game's dullest moon. It looks the same as Vow and it's very big without any unique landmarks. Well, the revamp is well underway now and I am very satisfied with it thus far. It's absolutely going to benefit from being able to use Unity's default terrain through every single stage of the process. It keeps some key elements of the original March's layout, but it's more dynamic and has at least a smidge of visual identity on its own. I thought he's said earlier that he bought an asset and is no longer using Unity's default terrain, but I guess he is. I think maybe what it was like this new system was applied to Unity's default terrain. I'm not really sure how, you know, that works within Unity, but basically I think he has some sort of new system within Unity to edit terrain. So he shows us this picture and we have a bridge, and then he shows us another picture and it looks like, you know, he's looking at the ship, and then we can see some grass here. So basically what it sounds like is he has some kind of new system to create moon terrain, which means we should be seeing stuff on moons that we haven't seen before, because maybe within this new system he can create some things or add some things that he wasn't able to add or do before. So yeah, he's revamping March. We have 2 screenshots here. Don't really know where this is, but I'm really excited for this. I just really hope Zeekers adds more things to do outside, because sometimes I just like being outside on moons. And the only thing that's like productive outside is beehive hunting, which is honestly a really good way of like farming, I guess, outside. But yeah, I mean, I think if Zeekers added some way of farming on these, you know, on the outdoor parts of the moon, I think that would be really cool. Or at least something else that's productive that you can do outside. He says, my goal is to make these outdoor environments feel like an actual jungle or forest fully claimed by nature. Which this I cannot wait for. Honestly, when this update drops, I'm gonna be pulling up to March, Vow, and Adamance and just be running around, like vibing out outside, because they're gonna look really good. He goes on to say, I want to release this update soon, but I have also badly wanted to make a creature feature update that includes more than just several new animals, and revamped March would be a nice addition to that update. The version that takes the game out of early access ought to be very big and comprehensive, so at some points I'm going to want to stop making smaller updates and begin charging up content for that one big update. I don't know when that will be, but it probably won't be just yet, since I want to release some bug fixes, and there's still quite a bit to do before I get to making the ending. I've really been enjoying working on Lethal Company again. There is a certain mindset that allowed this dauntingly big project to grow into what it is, and I've gotten into that mindset again. It goes like this. I see the mountain of work set in front of me, and instead of feeling crushed and trapped by it, I see it as a huge blessing. Having something to work on every day adds a necessary purpose and direction to my life, and honestly keeps me from going insane. Same, Zeekers. Same. In that way, Lethal Company has sustained me for an incredibly long time, and I'm glad there's still more to go. It may be fun to start something new, but I like waking up every day knowing what I'm going to do next. So as a little recap, we have grass in Lethal Company. We also have some shading fixes, so now fog should look a lot better. As a side effect of that, we have an optimized shader. We have a March revamp. March is going to look a lot different. Basically, it should basically be like a completely different forest moon. That's what it sounds like. And then we also have talks about a creature feature update, which make sure you guys stay tuned with the rest of the videos this week, because he does cover that more in some future posts. That's post number 1. Remember, this was on November 13th, 2025. So this was about 3 months ago. He made another post like a month after. We're not going to be covering that in this video. We're going to be covering that in tomorrow's video. So make sure you guys hit the like button and stay tuned for tomorrow's video. Later.